What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today we have a match between BY Luffy and Gecko Moria. Gecko isn't seeing a lot of love right now in OP07, but I think he's still a really strong deck. He definitely doesn't fold to BY Luffy as hard as Lucci does, but I can see why Gecko's popularity has decreased just because Lucci is a newer leader, and seems like a lot of people are fan favorites, or he's a fan favorite to a lot of players. So yeah, let's get into this match here. Looks like BY Luffy already ripping himself a life, going down to 3, and then I start off by just dropping a brand new, filling up the grave, and being able to grab a card to my hand there. And then with the Three Brothers Searcher, BY Luffy's able to find himself a Space Luffy. Space Luffy being a very strong card to find BY Luffy some tempo on board. But he does go 7 into life, which connects. I think in the early stages of the game, I don't want to give him 2 cards for 1 swing just yet, just because I do want to make sure I see my Geckos and Rebecca's, especially in this matchup, so that he has to burn resources to either get through the blockers or try to clear my Geckos. But I do think when you're playing Gecko into BY, it's really important to have your Geckos ready, and then try to find the hog back to recur as many Gecko turns as you can so that you can build a tall board. But here already BY Luffy is getting a Sabo out of his life with the Sabo baby, which means that his leader is now pumped to 7, and then Sabo obviously being the biggest counter to black decks because we are not able to KO him afterwards. So 8k swing at leader. Looks like it's going to be an easy Rebecca block here, just because again I don't want to be giving up resources too early. At 4 life I don't feel too threatened to get killed or rushed down, because I know that the only rush down that BY Luffy's play is the 5 drop aces, which a lot of them are dropping now or lowering. Some people prefer the Kuzan build, and then some only play like 2 to 3 copies of the ace anyway. So so for my 6 non turn, I decided to just drop the Sabo. I'd rather drop the Sabo just because he is a 6k body first of all, but he's also not in range for Space Luffy. So I didn't want to drop 2 bodies on board, 2 smaller bodies, to have them popped by Space Luffy anyways. So the Sabo there helps me filter out some cards, hopefully find some Geckos on my 8 Dawn turn next turn. But he answers with his own Sabo once again, Sabo being really powerful against Gecko, but I do see that he doesn't have any Geckos himself, which means that as long as we are able to get resources, we should be able to outlast him and just grind him out. Just because it looks like his hand right now is already looking thin. He has about 5 cards in hand, 4 cards now using his leader ability. We should be able to grind him out slowly here. So with a leader pumped up once again, no need to waste resources to counter since I do have 3 more life. I just decided to take it. And now for the 8 Dawn turn, I think here probably just best to drop the Gecko down, get as much counter as possible in case he does start ramping his Geckos the following turn. And yeah, there's no reason to commit too much more, otherwise just because with his leader pumped up, I do have to invest a lot of Dawn in order to even get 1Ks out of his hand. So that's what I end up doing. Drop the Gecko and grabbing the Rebecca and Brand New being good so that he can try to search for some more counter out of my deck. And then Rebecca obviously being one of the best black cards in the game, grabbing a 2K out of Grave for me. Going back to the BY Luffy's turn. Still doesn't look like he has any Geckos to work with. Otherwise, I think that would have been an easy Gecko turn for him. Instead, he drops down the Space Luffy, being able to pop my Rebecca. Space Luffy, just very powerful card, allowing him to cycle as much as he does. He's still not able to find any Geckos, so that's really good for us. But as of right now, he's actually only pumped to 7, so now dropping the second baby Luffy, now he's pumped up to 9, so we probably won't be able to push for too much pressure here. But with I think he only has 3 cards left in his hand. It's really just a resource management game for us at this point. I do have a lot of gas to work with, so as long as I don't overextend, I should be able to get the resources out of his hand and close out this game. So start off with a 9K swing with the Gecko. Looks like that connects, or eats a blocker, I mean. So that's really good for us. And then I just take what I can and then refill more resources, dropping another Gecko so that I can do the same Rebecca and Brand New pickup. Brand New this time being able to grab another 1K counter, and then Rebecca grabbing another 1K counter out of my Grave. I think I just didn't have another 2K counter in the Grave, so you know, Salvo's the next best thing. So here going into BY Luffy's turn, still not feeling pressured. Him not being able to recur his babies from the Grave means that he needs to use a lot of resources in order to keep his leader pumped up. But him dropping the Kuzan tells me that he still doesn't have Gecko. And I'm probably gonna start pushing for lethal soon. Yeah, just because he also doesn't have too many cards left in hand, and he still hasn't healed yet. But if he does, that means that's just another card out of his hand. So here he gets another Sabo. I think the Sabo was actually a top deck by the Kuzan, so really lucky on his side, but I just don't think that's enough to withstand what's on my board right now. So here I think he's deciding where his swings should go. It's really tough just because I do have the Rebecca and Sabo blocker on board, so whatever he does swing with is really not a large threat for me. And with the amount of counter I got throughout the game, I just, you know, decide to start countering out, not trying to get too low yet. But him swinging super heavy with lead means that I could just drop that Rebecca, save myself some counter there. So now this should be a pretty big turn for us. He only has about 3 cards left in hand, and with no recursion, all we have to do is grind out the rest of his resources, and then we can start pushing for lethal. So I think here I just go in for 9 with the Gecko to see what he gives me. And since he does give me the Sabo, that's really good for us because all we really want is to just get those blockers off the board, and then find a turn where he's not pumped up so that we can push super heavy here. But because he gave me the Sabo blockers, I decided to just pressure him really heavy, swinging in for a 10 at lead, leaving 5 Dawn up in case he didn't have the counter, and just dropping the last 5 to drop a Sabo down. So now this guarantees that my Geckos are safe. On top of the amount of counter I have in hand, I feel like I was able to survive long enough. So yeah, really tough for him here. Looks like he finally found his Gecko in hand, but at this point it's pretty much too little too late because he's gonna have no cards left in his hand, and I basically just have to swing minimums the following turn. So yeah, looks like here he's just swinging in 8 at lead. I decided to take it because he already put the 2 Sabos in life, so you know, not really endangered at all here. And yeah, you're gonna see how much counter I got throughout this game. On his next swing, I just dumped everything down because I figured, you know, didn't really matter. So yeah, just the key to beating BY is to get as much counter as you can and then survive until you get an opening. And this is the opening right here, no cards left in hand, and just have too many minimum swings to for him to counter out of. Yeah, so that takes that game. Going into game 2 here, I think definitely last game we got really lucky that he didn't find any Geckos, but let's see if the BY Luffy can last a little better this game here. So in game 2 I actually decide, or he decides to take second. I went second last round, and so let's see if that affects the outcome of this match here. So turn 1's pretty standard on both sides. Looks like he bottomed one of the Geckos with his Garp, which is really bad for him. Just really unlucky these past couple games, but he does seem to have a Gecko this game, so should be able to have enough steam to pressure us in the later stages of the game. So here I decided to just do the basic Perona play, swinging in 6 at leader and then activating hero ability to bring out that Perona. And Perona's actually really good. I used to think she wasn't a big deal in the BY Luffy matchup, but anything they discard means less fodder for them to discard with their hero ability in the late game. So as many, you know, Peronas as you can get off, it's still really strong against BY Luffy. So he answers with a Kuzan. Kuzan actually being a pretty good card in the BY Luffy matchup, or in the BY Luffy deck, just because he's able to replace himself, and also lowering anything by 4 cost means that Space Luffy now has a range up to 8 cost when it does try to pop something. So that's really good against annoying decks that run like Kid or Katakuri, just some of the more common higher cost bodies that BY Luffy normally can't deal with. So here he plays an interesting tech. I don't know if you saw, but he plays Finger Pistol, which KOs a 5 cost or less, and he decided to KO my Perona there. I think this BY Luffy build is more geared towards the Bonnie matchup, just because I know BY Luffy struggles really heavily with Bonnie, and so cards like Finger Pistol and Kuzan allows them to deal with the taller bodies that Bonnie does end up that they all end up running. So going into this turn here, I just try to develop as much as I can. Again, dropping the Rebecca, I really just want to grab as many resources as I can to counter out in case he does swing heavy. But this is an interesting play that I decided to make, bringing out the Perona, to lower the Kuzan by 3, and then the Brook able to lower him down to 0 and KOing him. I really do like Brook in the Gecko Moria deck. I think it makes the deck really flexible in terms of getting rid of bodies between 4 and 6. Definitely the Brook build struggles against taller bodies, which is why I try to run some more Ice Agers than usual. But yeah, this game really showcases that Brook is really strong, just because he's able to KO annoying bodies that, you know, your opponent drops down that you don't want to waste too many resources on. So here he ends up being able to clear my Rebecca and Brook. And I think the following turn I actually end up just dropping the Gecko and making the same exact play to get rid of his Kuzan. Yep, so Helmeppo bringing him down to 1, and then Rebecca effect triggering to bring out the Brook and KOing the Kuzan. And then I pass just because I don't want to give him cards out of his life, since I didn't have lethal pressure there. I didn't want him to be able to full combo just yet. And so here, drops the Kuzan and Space Luffy. I think, yeah, Space Luffy and Kuzan's really cool in the deck. Just giving BY Luffy a bunch of draw power in order to nat draw like stuff like Gecko and other tech cards that he's playing. So now going into my Tendon turn here, I decide to poke in 5s to see if I can get resources out of his hand. I know I have another Gecko in hand as well, and so if he counters out too early, I'll just drop another Gecko and refill my board. So yeah, I'm feeling like in a pretty good spot here. So him actually taking the second 5 is, I think, probably the biggest misplay in this match here, just because I do have a Gecko on board and Tendon up. It's really dangerous to be that greedy this late in the game. So I think the last card that came out of his life, he's deciding whether or not to use the trigger, but he decides against it just because the characters are already rested and he probably wants to hold on to the counter in his hand. So here, Gecko swinging in for 11, which means I can literally just attach everything and swing in 13. You either give me your whole hand or you lose the match. And he actually didn't have the counter for it. I think taking that 5 early on was just a little too greedy, and I was able to see that and capitalize on that. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to support the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.